Miss Lennon is here. She's our Board of Education rep for, I don't know how many schools up in the northern part of the county. I do have one question before you kind of, they may have some questions for you. One of the things I brought up at the beginning is we obviously talk about our size. That we're now over 1,100 students, and you know, you look around us at Corn. Huh?
Your number 4.
Yeah, in the system? That's great.
The most
there you go. No, that's great. I'm not sure that's the list you want to be on, but so, yeah, so you have Cornelius, you have Huntersville that have dropped. You know, Torrance Creek is going to be relieved by the new Stumptown. Has there been any conversation? I know North Mech has kind of risen back up again as an issue. I saw on your site, and that is a site that I would recommend if you do go to Facebook again. You know, follow Miss Lennon as well, because she does post stuff, and I can keep track of things that way. But
I got fussed at for having too much JV Washington stuff.
Yeah, that's all right.
He's always sending me pictures.
So, talk a little bit about that. Is there any conversation at all about redrawing or anything of that nature?
Do you want me to come up?
Yeah, you're fine. I'm going to give you the floor.
I'm always foggy the morning after school board meetings, and for some reason, coffee chat is always the morning after school board meetings. So last night was fairly light. We had nothing on the agenda other than we had no vote, so that was kind of a less draining sort of experience. Student assignment. They actually are, because, first off, I'm glad that I'm following Dr. Morrison, because he's so amazing, and I'm so glad he got up here. You know, he's the only superintendent that's ever visited this school.
That is true.
First one. You never had a visit by the superintendent before.
Oh, Dr. Gorman was at our initial grand opening before I came.
That doesn't count when kids are in the building and teaching and learning is happening. So, different scenario. He's been to more schools in my district. My district is really crazy large. Well, it's gotten a little smaller, but I go to Mountain Island, clear over to the River Oaks Whitewater Academy on the Gaston County line. I go clear over to University Meadows at UNCC, and I go down as far as Harris Boulevard. So I have everything from there, I call it the crown on top of the county, basically, is what I've got. So we do have a lot of overcrowded schools. One of the things that Dr. Morrison has, that I just really, that attracted me to him when I got his resume in a pile of about 30 resumes, he was my first choice out of the book. And I stayed with him from the whole process. So one of the things was that he really tries to put processes into place, and I'm a very process-driven person. If the process is good and valid, regardless of the outcome, people are going to be happy or sad maybe, but they know that you followed a valid process and they know it was a fair process. So I'm very into that, and I think we've had some things that have happened over the last few years that maybe weren't the best process. So he's putting a process in place for student boundary change issues. If the community raises up one, or if the school itself says, hey, we have 1,100 kids, can you look at some options for relief? Not suggesting anything, because it's on video, and then you'll put it on the internet and everyone will see that I did that. But if you were to suggest, maybe to Scott McCauley and his group, from a group of parents from JV Washam that say, hey, can you look at some options for relieving some of the crowding that we're experiencing here at JV Washam? Then I believe that there's a process that's going to be put into place over the next few months to look at that. Now, there's not going to be anything that happens. We, as a board in 2010, adopted a guiding principle, one of which was that we would make student assignment decisions by November 15th for next school year, so that people had a chance to pick magnets or shop or do whatever they wanted to do, so the boundaries were well in effect before that date. So November 15th, so I don't obviously see anything happening. I'll touch base on one other part of boundary issues. There is a persistent rumor that has been going on since August 26th of 2009, 10, since the day Huff High School opened, that the boundaries were changing, since day one. Kids hadn't even gotten through the door yet, and I already heard the grapevine was very active that the boundaries are changing. You guys have any of you ever heard that rumor?
I told them this morning that I said it was in the Huntersville Herald that it's kind of resurfaced again.
It has resurfaced because a local charter school has decided to promote the fact that come and apply for our high school seats when they have vacancies, and I don't know why they have vacancies, that's their issue, I don't keep up with them. But they're promoting that Huff boundaries may be changing. So come apply for our vacant high school seats. And they got very specific, and I had about 55 emails in about a 12-hour period, in addition to my phone blew up. Blew up. And so the big rumor was that Northstone would go back to North Mech, and just all kinds of craziness. Anyway, bottom line is there are no boundary changes. They're in their third year. They've only graduated one class of kids. That's one of our guiding principles, one of the very top ones, was stability. Stability. You don't shuffle high. So somebody's like, but Huff's overcrowded. Have y'all ever seen any trailers over there? Do y'all have trailers here? Where would we worry first about overcrowding? Somewhere where they have trailers. And I don't call them mobiles or learning cottages or any of the little fluffy stuff. They're trailers. They have wheels on them. They're trailers. I mean, that's reality. I've been dealing with trailers for 10 years since I started my advocacy for more schools to be built in this area. And this is this school is actually one of the fruits of my labors from about 8 years ago, lobbying the county commission for money. So, you're welcome. Trust me, the day that and Gary Knox was mayor then, he helped me put together the land package, and I just had a great town board working on expanding and doing the joint venture with Parks and Rec. It was a great community project. And we had a lot of great parents from Cornelius Elementary at the time that really dug in. Lori Helms was one of them. She was PTA president at the time that we really lobbied hard to get this school built. So, Huff High School. You don't change a high school boundary every 2 or 3 years. It's not what you do to make kids successful in high school. You don't change them. You don't have the threat of changing them. So to me, it's not even really that the change might happen. It's that people are still talking about it. And to me, that makes teenagers have enough problems. They don't need this unsettledness of, oh my gosh, are you going to move my boundary next year? So if you hear the rumor, just tell people that is a silly rumor and no. And then have them call me. I take all the calls. Most everything goes to voicemail. I don't answer because I actually have a full-time job. Full-time mom, full-time job, single mom, and I spend a little bit of time doing school board stuff. I actually we were talking about technology, which was great. I actually got my first iPad last Friday. It's not provided by the school system. It's provided by my job. But I actually can do school stuff on it, so not a lot during the 8 to 5 hours. So I'm actually learning a lot, so I can imagine how your teachers must feel when you're converting from one way of doing their job and incorporating technology. I still, if you look at my iPad, there is an agenda. My Lily Pulitzer pink agenda is sitting right underneath there. Have I converted 100% to technology? No. I still have my written stuff. I think that's the same way that teachers are going to do things. You're not going to completely convert all the way to everything being electronic, but you're going to start moving things that are most practical to the electronic. And as a district, we are very excited about incorporating all the innovation. I have a college student. She has an iPad. She doesn't have textbooks. She takes notes, she highlights, we download them onto her iPad. She had to buy a couple. usetextbooks.com. So we've had to get used to that. But the technology, she's 19, and I look at what her techno ability, techno savviness. My 10-year-old outpaces her by light years in what he knows how to do. But I was just telling Lori, when my son started kindergarten, he's in 5th grade at Huntersville now. I don't believe iPads were even barely in their infancy. I think the Kindle was that white one that you could read books on only, and it had nothing else. So if you think about the emergence of where tablet technology has gone just since my son entered kindergarten, because he's in 5th grade, he's got 7 more years of school. Who could predict where it's going to be when he graduates? So the best we can do is try to keep current with as many things that are feasible. And I think it's just great for our teachers. So that's just my comments on technology. I'm very supportive. I think that we've got to do it slowly, deliberately, have some deliverables on how what things we're going to measure every year. They have to enhance what's going on. The technology, no matter how great it is, the most important thing in a child's education, number one, is their parents or somebody at home that loves and cares about them and asks them what they did all day and helps them do their homework. If the child doesn't have somebody in their life that loves and cares about them, whether a parent, mentor, or something, they are not going to be successful, or they have a very slim chance of being successful. And we see that played out throughout our community. But the second most important thing in a child's education is to have a great teacher in their classroom. All the technology in the world can't replace a great teacher with a child. So parent, child, teacher, we talk about it being a 3-pronged stool. All 3 stools have to be solid or the child's education tips over. The child has to be dedicated and committed to do the work. The teacher has to be effective and engaged, and the parent has to be involved. So, all right, go ahead and ask me some questions. Oh, and on Facebook, it's Rhonda Lennon, CMS Board of Education. If you just type in Rhonda Lennon CMS, my Facebook page should come up.
How do you spell your last name?
Lennon like John. I think there's a picture of me with former Governor Jim Martin and my son at a picnic on there right now. one of my heroes. That's
anything system-wide that you have questions about that are going on right now?
As far as your boundaries, I will say that there are some small fixes that could probably happen. I don't know if they'd impact huge amounts of children.
Do you have any idea, you know, there's an, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Richardson. Go ahead.
I know my question like when my son will maybe funny or whatever, but I still don't understand why can't we build classes out there instead of having trailers?
It's not cost effective because really trailers are necessary and they're a good thing to have because we at this point aren't growing very fast. Back in the day, if any of you guys were here like 7, 8, 9 years ago, we had probably about 900 mobiles in District 1 at that point, 65 at one school. 30 was not uncommon because they weren't building. So we kind of caught up, and now what you have to have trailers, you cannot afford to build a $12 million elementary school just when you get 150 too many kids. But you need to build a new elementary school when you have 500 or 600 extra kids. And you need to start looking at is Davidson and Torrance Creek both overcrowded enough that we slate a new school somewhere over in the River Run area? And we pull kids from both. Yes. We have to have a new capital plan. So it's not cost, trailers are very inexpensive, and for the most part people talk about them being temporary. We have trailers that have existed since I graduated from South Meck High School that are still in use, and they're functional and they're fine. They really are. They're functional and fine. So I'm not an opponent of trailers because to me, if there's a great teacher, once the door closes, whether you're in a classroom, whether you're in a closet, well, you don't want to be in a closet, whether you're on a stage, when we used to have kids on stages at Cornelius Elementary in Huntersville because there were so many they couldn't put any more trailers on the parking lots. They actually had to put kids on the stage with the curtain closed and have a class there. That was ineffective. That was 2003. But you have to be able to have trailers for flexibility while you're letting the area grow enough to build a new school and then have capital dollars allocated by our county commissioners. And the county commissioners are running for election this year. They're the ones that allocate capital. We're going to be coming to them with a capital request in January. I can promise you a relief school in this area will be one of my priorities. I'm working on a new high school in the Stumptown area. There's actually, the property's already been sited where the elementary school's going for a high school. I'm working on a middle school, which is actually property that we have options on near Huntersville United Methodist Church on Stumptown. So that'll kind of fill the gap between North and Huff and Hopewell. So it's just a matter of capital expenditures. Trailers come out of operating budget. If you put brick and mortar on the ground, it comes out of capital budget. That comes from a different place.
Can you repeat that again? You said the elementary school is going to be on Stumptown, right across from Macaulay.
Yes, and there's actually enough property on there. They've already sited and drawn the site map for a high school.
So and then you're saying the middle school potentially would be
right across from, on the other side of the interstate by Huntersville United Methodist.
I didn't know that.
And it would just kind of close the gap. It's all in the long range. It was in the long range plan. Our high school is going to be slower than the one needed down in Providence, Ardrey-Kell area. That will be the next relief high school that I foresee. I've been dealing with capital. That's like kind of been my hobby for 10 years, is figuring out where to build schools.
Do you have any news on like the IB program and how it would switch between schools?
It's pretty much where it is.
Is it going to stay there?
Mm-hmm. The one at Blythe is over capacity and has a long waiting list. We actually have grown the program at J.M. Alexander considerably, have a great new principal. She is a dynamo and has really rallied things around. And North Meck had its highest freshman enrollment in IB that it's had in the last 6 years. So the synergy between the three schools all being side by side has really been a blessing. Honestly, I'm not a proponent of putting a magnet school in an overcrowded school. You put a magnet school in a school that has capacity, because that is a magnet to draw people down there. So I don't foresee any magnets in our little neck of the woods. They're going to be in schools that need to have people drawn to them for whatever reason. Location. I mean, North Meck is 65 years old. All of the high schools that surround it are in the under 10. So it's.
And I think isn't and I could be wrong, but isn't J.M. Alexander on the slate to be
it's number
rebuilt?
Number one, and actually the Brighton development, which is going right across the street, which will bring an influx of residents. There's some land swap discussion going on. They would love to have that corner property for retail or something right there, and perhaps donate land within the development for a new school. But that is considered the #1 replacement school.
That's what I thought. So
It
that
has
will be a
been,
new building.
and the capital program just absolutely stopped about 4 years ago. They stopped starting new schools. Stumptown is one of the first new things to roll. The county just released some money. They froze everything. It was basically, the county couldn't get a mortgage, just like most people couldn't get a mortgage during the economic downturn. The county couldn't sell bonds. The bonds were approved by the voters, they just couldn't sell them. Couldn't get a mortgage. So yeah, J.M. Alexander's, I mean, I'm a huge magnet proponent. My daughter graduated from North Meck IB. Both my daughters actually graduated from North Meck. So I am loyal to North Meck. My son is obviously on track to go to Bailey and Huff, but I will be a loyal North Meck advocate and try to do everything I can to stabilize the school. It's in a changing demographic area. There is a lot of discussion about what happened, and they did pull some kids from pretty far down near Ranson Middle School up to North Meck. That's only 200 kids. There's 1,400 kids that live really close to school. And people kind of lose that in that whole drama of, oh my gosh, they bust kids up from Ranson Middle School area. The whole Eastfield Road corridor is the predominant filling point for the school, and that is a very, I call it a very challenging demographic area with a lot of housing issues and lower priced housing. A lot have become HUD, foreclosure. It's just a very challenging demographic population in that area. And that is, the Eastfield Road is within eyesight almost of North Meck. Those kids are going to go there. So there's a lot of talk about what they need to do to fix North Meck. I think the city of Charlotte needs to do something to stabilize housing. Because you've got some areas with really, really low priced housing that have then become very challenging. There's got to be more. You guys have an awesome school here and an awesome principal. I'm real excited about Chad Thomas over at Bailey. I know it was a huge, kind of a bummer for me that I lost one of my best principals, Jennifer Dean, when she decided that she wanted to take on the challenge of a very challenging school, Martin Luther King Middle, but she asked for the challenge. And I reminded everybody, Lake Norman Charlotte can't wear flip-flops till high school either. That became a huge issue for parents. Not that I take it lightly. But.
Anything else at all? Yeah. Yes,
Well, what do you think would this new principal bring to Bailey?
Well, I think he's just got a different perspective. So anytime there's a change in leadership, I think he's always come from schools that were very challenged and done an incredible, he's kind of been a turnaround kind of person. I think what we will see from Bailey and what I'm looking for in all of my schools north of Harris Boulevard that are all mine is we have an incredible gift of demographics where we have a propensity of kids that are high performers. We have a propensity of people that are involved in the schools, whether it's parents, businesses, whatever. Our kids know they're loved and they're encouraged and that we want them to succeed in school, unlike many other parts of our county. So I think that we should see Bailey Road scores improve. I think all of our schools, we need to be all at the tip top because we have the kids to be at the tip top. Now, for proficiency, we should be at the tip top, right? The challenge for him and for all of his staff is when you get to 98% or 96% proficiency, how do you grow? How do I grow my fifth grader whose reading level is an 8 to a 12.9 in AR and he can't even read any books that make sense to him or the content's too mature? How do I make him grow his reading when he's at that level? So that is the challenge for him, to help his staff find a way to grow kids that are already level 4s. Because you still need to grow them, because that is how we determine if a child's successful. I'm not happy if all my schools in District 1 make adequate growth and all what are the new tests all going to be called?
Well, we really don't know exactly.
We don't know exactly, I know. LMP and blah, blah, blah. So they keep changing what the new terminology is. But I'm not going to be happy if all my schools make 4s. I'm only going to be happy if all my schools grow their kids by at least one academic year, because we don't want to just say we have such great kids. And I hear that all the time. Why are you worried about your schools in District 1? You have such high test scores. Well, how much higher could they be? Why do we have to cap potential? Absolutely, I disagree with capping potential. So what can we do to make it better? And so some of the things are maybe relieving overcrowding is an example. So that's a big deal for me, overcrowding. I don't know if any of you know where I came from or were around, but I started a group called FUME in 2003. And the acronym was Families United for Mecklenburg Education. And we really lobbied. There was group of about 200 parents that we would go to every school board meeting with yellow shirts on and remind people that we had 900 trailers in this area and that we needed schools built and that we were here. You know, we couldn't wait. So over the course of time, that's when Bailey and J.V. Washam and Huff and Croft Elementary, Highland Creek, Ridge Road, Mallard Creek, Long Creek Replacement, Barnett, all those schools actually came out of the dirt in the last 10 years because of all the parents up here just really saying, we're here and we need schools built for our kids. So I'm going to be very mindful of capital over the next year because that's a project we're getting ready to start. Mm-hmm.
When you were just talking about J.B. Washam, when you were referred to kids in 5th grade who are already reading above and beyond their level and stuff like that, why would you guys not consider bringing in something else to challenge the kids? And if you've got...
We just brought in a whole bunch of iPads.
Okay, but iPads are not going to challenge the kid but bring them to the next level.
I don't agree. I think that reading is not some... I mean, that's just my philosophy.
I'm not talking just reading. I'm talking straight across the board. When you've got your IB stuff down in Blythe and Alexander and North Met, why would you not have that in other areas where you have
I can
schools
answer the
that are
IB really quickly.
performing?
IB in elementary and middle school is not an advanced curriculum. It is a global perspective of curriculum. It is not more challenging classes. In elementary and middle school, International Baccalaureate is learning how we interact with the global world. It is not saying your math class is, your 4th grade math is a 6th grade. It is absolutely not. So there's a very large misperception about what International Baccalaureate is. It's very project driven, it's very group driven, hands-on. It's more tactical or tactile for kids that are into that kind of thing. They do a ton of projects. My daughter did not do International Baccalaureate until she reached North Mech. She was at Bradley, and she did IB, my oldest. My youngest daughter had no interest in doing all the crazy projects and all the stuff. It really isn't until they hit 11th grade, because the middle and first years of high school are called IB MYP, middle years. So it's not any more challenging than a straight up Bailey Road or J.B. Washam curriculum. It is just a different, it's a magnet perspective of looking at classroom activity from a more global, international perspective.
Okay, so then maybe I need to rephrase my question then to you.
Fine, go ahead.
How is it that when you have a high achiever child, for those parents out there who have it, how as a school like J.B. Washam or any other school close by, when their TD classes are not too much above and beyond that current grade that they're in, to where the kid is still performing 95 to 100%, do you have any things?
I'm not the magic bullet of curriculum. I do more governance type of decisions. But I mean, I'd be happy to try to get somebody to come in here and maybe talk to you more about curriculum. But in my opinion, a school like J.V. Washington that has a propensity of kids at level 3 and 4 in proficiency, you are doing a TD type of, catalyst type of curriculum for every student in every class. You're not limiting learning in any environment. It's not just the 1 or 2 hours that we could pull out for TD. That is not what got my son into level 8. Now, he reads everything, and I have to limit what he reads, but there's not one thing that happened in his education that made him become a level 8 learner in 5th grade, a level 8 reader, level 8 through 12. That didn't happen, but he plays with his iPad, he creates things, his mind is open, and I think you have to have a comprehensive curriculum that does allow kids to just explore the world around them, and that is being done here. It's not just an IB curriculum, it's not a TD curriculum. It is an overall process that goes on with great effective teachers and great effective learners. And you guys have that here. That's why kids are growing at more, if you look at your growth, you're growing at more than a 1-year pace with even your brightest kids.
Then why is the test scores going down? There was a thing
you have to actually, where did you see that they went down?
Just never mind.
There was some discussion about test scores that dropped at some schools in the area, and because they were looking at not the same population year to year, there was the big thing about Huntersville test scores dropping, because they didn't look at, it was just kind of, the paper actually put a retraction in the next week. Herald, I think it was Herald or Lake Norman Citizen, I can't remember which one. You can look at overall test scores, but we actually look at things child by child. And that's what the teachers do on their dashboards, their data dashboards. They look at each child and see where did that child do in 3rd grade versus where they did in 4th grade versus where are they on their formatives in 5th grade. Is that a good example? Am I on target there? So I mean, you have to, it's child by child. If you look at a whole clump of kids, you're not going to take care of kids. You have to see the trees for the forest when you look at test scores. It's per child. And teachers have the data dashboards where they can look at how kids have done on all their formatives, all of their end of course work, all of their summatives, all of that kind of stuff, and trend and see where kids are doing and how they're doing. They can see where they were at the end of last year versus where they started on their formatives based on the data dashboards that we have available for teachers right now to pull all their data. So I think teachers have to be very techno-savvy in some cases, or just be able to look at data. You've got leaders like Mr. G that are looking at data for teachers, and some of the facilitators here at JV Washam and other schools. They are identifying kids that may be not trending, like their formatives maybe are flattening out. So they're going to be identifying them and try to do special programs. There is not, if school and education was one size fits all, and I could say every child, if they have an IB curriculum, they're going to do better, then we do it. It's not one size fits all. It's individualized project learning and planning that has to happen. And we're really fortunate that that is occurring. Is there anything else? I'm always available to be contacted. I can't always, if I get a phone call on my phone, I do work. I'm a nurse and I'm in medical sales, so I'm not always available to answer my phone all the time. But I do try to return things. Email is the best thing for me, either through my Facebook or Rhonda.Lennon at the CMS.K12. Emails are great because I can just get an answer. And if there's ever a problem, emails are the best thing because then I have a paper trail and I can go to the next level and figure out how to solve it for you. I get emails all the time about fixing my kids' grades or my teacher's meeting or can you do this? And my answer back to most parents on a lot of issues is you need to contact the person at your school first. I try not to get involved because it's a little bit like the CEO of McDonald's getting involved if somebody has a complaint about a French fry at one of the stores. Probably need to start with the store and the shift manager and then kind of work your way up. So, but I'm always happy to help.